Let's get a quick take on the second annual Women's March on Colorado taking place this Saturday in Denver Civic Center Park. The march comes on the heels of the Me Too movement that is sweeping through politics, Hollywood, and the media across the country. Patty Calhoun from Westward. So when the march first happened last year, there was a lot of energy really in response to the inauguration of Donald Trump. What do you expect from the march and the movement this year?
I don't expect it to be as large as last year, but everyone was blown away by how large that march was. But I expect it to be every bit as impassioned, and a lot of that is going to be fueled by the Me Too movement, which hasn't just hit those areas. Think about business. You've got all the people who are complaining now about things that have gone on in business, media, the LA Times. I mean, it's incredible how far it's sweeping, and I think we'll see a lot tomorrow.
I think you're right. Especially, I think the weather doesn't really change until later on Saturday, so it should be a nice day. David Copel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Do you think that the march and the movement behind it will have an impact on politics beyond tomorrow?
They're limited by their national leadership, which is a bunch of anti-Semitic, really bigoted radicals. But the people, like Patty's talking about, turning out on the streets of Denver are very different from that. So on the latter, perhaps. But it's amazing to think about, like, just 1 year ago when people were marching at the very beginning of the Trump administration saying, what's going to happen in this country? And now just think of 1 year ago, all these women around the country proudly wearing these hats and costumes celebrating their body parts. And now, just 1 year later into the Trump administration, they're being shamed and told, you can't do that anymore. That's not politically correct, no longer allowed. And Margaret Atwood, of course, has been, the Canadian author, has been such an inspiration for so many feminists, is now under attack because she's out of line with the so-called politics of the day. I think all those people who worried about what could happen and after just 1 year of Trump, their fears have more than come true just through those two examples.
Eric Sonnen, political analyst, what do you see as the influence of the march, at least here locally? In Colorado's always been, I think, proud to be a purple state. Not really about politics, but I think as a state, it hates being told, now I know what Colorado's going to do. As soon as you think it's going red, it'll go blue and vice versa. What will the influence be of a march like this here?
Yeah, I'm not sure we're still quite as purple. I think, as we've talked around this table, it's definitely taken on a blue hue. It is not what I call a navy blue or cobalt blue. I refer to it as periwinkle blue. But,
one of my favorite crayons.
But it is increasingly taking on a blue hue. I think the impact of the march, Dominic, is really, it's back to base politics where both parties play so much to their base. And the march is an opportunity for the Democratic base, the anti-Trump base. And yes, there'll be some Republicans in the crowd, but basically this is the core largely, and the Democratic Party, it's run by many constituencies, but constituency number one has been for a long time women. You look at Denver, it is no coincidence that our Congress people for the last 50 years have both been women. That's who runs the Denver Democratic Party and in significant respects the state Democratic Party. The real news is not the 1 year anniversary of the march. To me, it's that the 1 year anniversary of the march means it's 1 year anniversary of the Trump presidency. In some respects, it feels like a lifetime. It means we still have 3 years to go.
Ed Seelever, reporter from Denver Business Journal, our guy on Capitol Hill. Earlier this week, we saw a special election in Wisconsin for I think it's a state Senate seat, go Democratic in a big Republican district. And one of the notes I had read about it was that they had lost a lot of the women vote, what they could have counted. And you can break down elections a lot of different ways. But with news like that, do our local lawmakers here perhaps put a little bit more stock into something like both the Me Too movement and this march will be happening on Saturday?
Well, absolutely, especially on the Democratic side. And I'm on all 5 of the news release lists for the 5 Democratic gubernatorial candidates. They're all going to be there. They're all talking about being there earlier. It's like they're going to out Women's March each other. They're so excited about this. It is interesting that this does seem to be, despite it being a women's march, it's a very partisan women's march at this point. You don't see any Republican female officials that are planning to participate in this, from what I've been able to read either. So yeah, I think this definitely captures everybody's attention, and I think it is used as a base rallying movement at this point too. The get out there and vote. If you like what you see here today, go vote for women Democrats. Go vote for Democrats. Period. So I think everybody's paying attention, but this has certainly become a divisive issue, not a unitarian gender issue.